And chat, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to Root Double Before Crime After Days. We are almost at the end of the save file list and going to start overwriting the stuff at the start. Yeah, we're starting a new chapter, a new day, the 13th, I believe. We're making good progress. Oh, real quick, I have, remember to not overwrite over save file 100. Good point. In that case, hang on. I am going to go all the way to number 1 and start there. So I skip save file 100. But real quick, I have just commissioned a Be Right Back screen. At long last, people have wanted me to do it for a while. I just commissioned it. Here is the mock-up I made of it. I think it's cute. I think it's fun. And I'm looking forward to getting it. Probably be done in a month. Because the artist is working full-time on top of the art. But they're a good artist. They've got a good style. And I'm looking forward to it. Anyways. Morning, everyone. Natsuhiko greeted everyone as he entered the living room. Tips to read from Chapter 3, Arms and Bayo Bayo Episode 2. Okay. Let's read that real quick. ARMS. Short for Atmosphere Reading Mascot System. A cutting-edge gadget in the form of a ferret-like stuffed animal that Miyoko Tenkawa prepared for Salu. By pointing the cameras installed in its eyes at the face of a target, its built-in CPU will quantitatively analyze that target's facial expression, voice, and gestures. It will then determine the target's emotion and emit a corresponding cry. Additionally, the interior of its body is equipped with a touch panel display and all sorts of input-output cables, allowing it to function as a high-level mobile PC that is also capable of accepting voice commands. Its power source is an experimental liquid solar battery, allowing it to withstand extended periods of outdoor use. Unisverse is the artist I got. Is their Tumblr name. And professional name, I think? Alright, Bayo Bayo Episode 2. Yeah, we did learn that the ferret scans emotions. Hang on. The other day. Where is... Ah, there it is. Love has a mysterious power. At times, one even stronger than psychic power. Kirara's close friend, Miko, begins to develop a small crush on Mamoru, the ace of the track and field club. When Kirara finds out, she decides that the easiest solution is to use psychokinesis to bring them physically closer together. Thus, Kirara transforms into Beyond Comni, but soon realizes she's too young to even understand exactly what love is. Not everything can be solved with psychic powers. Only medical treatment can heal someone's wounds. Only sincere feelings can move someone's heart. Yeti warns Kirara about this fact, but perhaps she's too young to even understand that. Psychic Girl Beyond Beyond Official Guidebook. As they all gathered around the table for Mashiro's home cooking, Natsuhiko felt a little less distant to Salu. Food has a mysterious power, at times one even stronger than BC when it comes to bringing people together. In the same way that Beyond Comni's psychic powers can't solve everything, neither can BC. Just take a look at Mashiro. Even though she has BC, her feelings still don't quite reach Natsuhiko. Consider emotion scanning frog. I would love that. Salu, Yuri, and Mashiro were all gathered at the dining table already. Good morning, Hikarim. You're late, Natsuhiko. I've already finished preparing breakfast, too. My bad, my bad. So what's on the menu? Going a little more subdued today, so it's rice gruel for breakfast. We ate a lot yesterday, so our stomachs are probably a little worn out. Oh, that's thoughtful of you. How? In what world is rice gruel thoughtful, Natsuhiko? Natsuhiko, hurry! To the dining table! Hurry! Okay, okay. Natsuhiko smiled wryly as he got to the dining table. He nonchalantly looked out the window. He saw a sunny sky. Another refreshing morning today. Sunny at 6:30 a.m. is awful. Man should not have to wake up before 8 a.m. The confusion he felt the previous morning had completely dissipated today. Salu becoming a member of the household had certainly been an unwelcome change for Natsuhiko. But even when things change, you simply have to get used to them for them to become just another part of the ordinary. Because Japan's in a different time zone? That's not how time zones work. It's how being north or closer or further away from the the equator works. The further you are from the equator, the more extreme the daylight variation is. Like on the equator, days are pretty much equal 12 hours day, 12 hours night. As you get further from the equator, the days get shorter in winter and longer in summer because you spend more time further away or closer to the sun because of the Earth's tilt. On the poles you have months where the sun either never sets or never rises. Hell, just in the Arctic Circle in, like, Norway, you have periods you have, like, a month every year where the sun doesn't rise or set. One day, he'd get used to the change of a new member in the household. At least he had a vague feeling that he would. A beautiful blue sky outside. A delicious breakfast inside. What a great morning. I get the feeling something wonderful's going to happen today, too. And with that thought in mind, Natsuhiko started on his breakfast. Oh, I didn't eat enough this morning. But once breakfast was over and they headed to school, Maxwell's Demon? Oh, I've heard of that. What is Maxwell's Demon? I can't remember. Natsuhiko came to the sudden realization that it was anything but a good morning. First thing today was parapsychology class, a full 2-hour block to boot. Well, we've never seen another class they go to, so clearly that's the only class they have at school. Natsuhiko grumbled as they headed to the BC room. We've got way too many BC-related classes, don't you think? I think so too. Well, what kind of a school do you think we go to? Mashiro was calm because she enjoyed BC. But still, it's troublesome. Why do we have to move to a specialized classroom for BC classes? Oh, that's so we don't bother the students in the other classrooms. Meaning, the BC room's walls are made with a BC insulator, a special building material meant to block out BC. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but apparently it can absorb telepathy and stuff. Excuse me. Kinda like a music room, I guess. Without any insulation, they leak noise and make it hard to conduct other classes, you know? Basically, in the BC room, you can go as crazy as you want with untargeted telepathy. This is your first day of practice, right, Salute? You won't bother anybody, so feel free to go nuts. Break some brains. How can you always be so enthusiastic? Natsuhiko entered the BC room as he shook his head in exasperation. Okay, class, it's everyone's favorite BC time. Anna cheerfully addressed her students as soon as class began. And since today's a special 2-hour block period, I think I'll start off with a detailed explanation of the theoretical mechanisms behind BC. Lore, 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 lore! But before that, I also need to explain what exactly information is in the context of BC. Apparently in this game, information is radiation. Well, it isn't directly related to the use of telepathy. It is a key concept to the fundamentals of BC. This may be a little hard to follow, but please try to listen closely. Anna worked on her computer as she spoke, upon which words began to appear on the screen. The second law of thermodynamics? Huh. What is information? Before we can explain information in definite terms, we first need to go over the second law of thermodynamics. The second law of thermodynamics? This is an absolute universal law. It states that all bodies of energy mix upon contact in a trend towards homogeneity. Anna used the PC to bring a figure to life on the screen. Blue dots and red dots floated about in a partitioned box. This is a model of a box with 2 partitions, each partition containing either 2 or 100 degrees Celsius water. The dots moving on the screen are the molecules that exist in nature. The red dots are hot molecules. The blue dots are cold molecules. And, naturally, the heat energy of these molecules mixes as they come in contact with each other. For example, if you mixed 1 liter of hot water with 1 liter of cold water, you'd get 2 liters of lukewarm water, correct? And with that, Anna removed the divider that partitioned the box. The hot water and the cold water mix, and as the hot molecules and cold molecules come in contact with each other, they eventually reach homogeneity and become lukewarm water. It's quite simple, but the same cannot be said of the reverse process. Lukewarm water doesn't spontaneously separate into cold water and hot water, does it? That's what the second law of thermodynamics illustrates. It's a rule that should be impossible to break. The students nodded in agreement. That was a sensible conclusion to make, and would likely be experimentally demonstrable. But around 160 years ago, a physicist by the name of James Maxwell reached an epiphany one day. What if we could observe the movement of these molecules? If we could use observational information to direct the molecules, could we not contradict the second law? Excuse me. It is so jarring to realize that 160 years ago was 1864. 1870 for the root double timeline. But man, second half of the 19th century, it was 160 years ago. Or 160 years ago was as late as the second half of the 19th century. When I was born 160 years ago was 1828. Time marches on. And thus, as a thought experiment, he created an imaginary creature that could observe molecules. The name of that creature is Maxwell's Demon. By observing molecules, Maxwell's Demon can do things like this. Oh my. Okay, so hang on. What does observation do to a molecule? I mean, there's quantum states and all that collapse when you observe them, but just the mixing of energy, observing hot molecules doesn't magically move them around. Oh my. Soon enough, Mashiro spoke out as she watched the screen. The water's separating into hot and cold? Exactly. By observing the molecules, you can do crazy things like that. No, you can't. From a physics perspective, the demon processed information. That doesn't make any sense. Information. The state and location of a molecule are types of information, correct? By merely processing that information, the demon can manipulate the energy in the system. That doesn't make a damn bit of sense. I see. Furthermore, if the demon selectively removed hot molecules from the system, it could even use their heat to start a fire. Okay, is the demon observing, or is the demon reaching in and plucking molecules out? Now, class, doesn't this sound a little strange to you? To create energy out of mere information seems like creating something out of nothing, doesn't it? Yeah, that clearly is strange. Maxwell's demon is that if you could observe those things, you would be able to manipulate them? Oh, it is explicitly the demon reaching in and pulling out certain molecules and moving them around? Well, the way she made it sound was it was just affecting them by looking at them. Several people in the classroom nodded in agreement. This was not explained well. In reality, Mr. Maxwell's thought experiment tormented physicists worldwide for over 100 years. Information processing can break the second law of thermodynamics. Energy can be created out of nothing. No, that wasn't describing energy being created out of nothing either. That was energy being moved around. There wasn't new energy. Accepting either of those statements would throw universal laws into disarray. It would make perpetual motion a possibility. So, everyone wanted to believe that the demon couldn't possibly exist. Reading the Wikipedia page, it says that the demon selectively opens and closes the door. Okay, that makes way more sense. It still doesn't involve creating energy out of nothing, but, the demon reaching in and physically manipulating the chambers does make sense. This was not explained well. So everyone wanted to believe that the demon couldn't possibly exist. But surprisingly enough, physicists of recent years have recreated this demon in the real world. Huh? In November 2010, a professor at Chuo University recreated Maxwell's demon in the real world, successfully converting information into a minuscule amount of energy. Alright, that's gotta be fictional, right? Or a misunderstanding of a real experiment. In July 2012, a Technical University of Munich team successfully manipulated water temperature without the application of heat. When did this game come out? Was it 2010? In September 2013, a certain Kyoto University student successfully converted information into electricity on their own. Indeed, the impossible demon was actually brought into existence. Anna grinned. A quite devilish smirk, as if she were tricking her students. 'Cause she is! This game was 2012, so they just straight up made up that 2010 experiment. Or it was a real experiment that the writers completely misunderstood and based an entire game on. But wait, you mean we can create energy out of nothing? Doesn't that break universal laws? Has stuff like perpetual motion actually been perfected already? Sorry, but unfortunately that's a no. Huh, what do you mean? Basically, there's a hole somewhere in this narrative. Can you see where? Nobody answered Enna's question. But as his mother was a famous physicist, Natsuhiko was reasonably good with physics himself. He pondered the problem in his own way and gave his opinion. Professor, could it be that the demon only appears to be creating energy out of nothing, but actually isn't? Oh my, Mr. Tenkawa, what makes you think that? Are we getting into dark matter now? Well, it's the demon itself. By observing the molecules, processing their information, and directing them, isn't the demon using energy itself? Yes, that is correct. Enna smiled gleefully as she worked the computer. After much investigation, it was made clear that observing and processing information both require energy. And, this may not be entirely accurate, but in layman's terms, the energy required to observe and process the information is greater than the energy gained. So fundamentally, it's a net loss of energy. It turns out you really cannot create energy out of nothing after all. I see. So the demon wasn't really that big a deal after all, huh? Just a surprisingly normal guy. Indeed. But the recreation of the demon is still earth-shattering in a different way, you know? How so? It proved that, even though it requires a large amount of energy to do so, it is still possible to convert information into energy. It is interesting that, we have reached a point where, well, I don't know if the experiments are instrument errors or they're actually succeeding, but there's an experiment going on trying to generate more energy from a nuclear reaction than is put into it from outside sources. Basically using lasers on nuclear material to cause the nuclear material to generate more energy than is put in. And that energy still comes from the nuclear material. It's not creating energy out of nothing. But I believe that's the big theoretical next step in nuclear power. If I'm understanding the experiment correctly. And the experiment, from what I'm aware, has had partial success. Minuscule success. The success lasted for like nanoseconds, but according to what I saw, they were able to generate more energy than they put into the experiment with the lasers. So that's promising. Natsuhiko and Mashiro gasped in unison. In Einstein's famous theory of relativity, he stated that energy and mass are equivalent and transmutable. And now we know that information can be converted into energy, which means that information can also be converted into mass. Alright, I have a layman's understanding of physics, but I do understand some things about physics. Which means that when they get into the nitty-gritty of how this works, and it doesn't make any sense, or is like completely impossible, it does take me out of the story a little bit. Understand? This means that information wasn't a conceptual existence, but a physical one all along. Information can be converted into mass. What does that even mean? It means the internet is a series of tubes. It demonstrates the possibility that information, something once thought to lack a form and not actually exist on its own, could have an actual physical existence. And not just the example of the state of molecular distribution, but the volume of space and the flow of time as well. Each and every sort of information that exists in the universe. All those sorts of information are invisible to the eye, but they certainly exist and can be converted into energy. Alright, so we're getting into Time Lord territory then? Information that's invisible to the eye physically exists? Wait, you mean even human thoughts too? You're quite sharp. Indeed I do. All of your thoughts, intentions, feelings, and memories are more than just conceptual existences. To put it bluntly, yet somewhat romantically, the spirit exists. When Enna finished talking, the room filled with awestruck sighs. I see. Her explanation is easy to understand, is it? Though I guess souls have mass isn't the most out there world building you could do. Because that's really what this boils down to, is souls have mass, is what she's getting at. Surprise! Scientists solved theology by 2030. We have the answers. It was a concept that was a little hard to accept, but the students all seemed to at least somewhat understand. Some wondered how exactly this related to BC, but that's exactly when Enna continued. One sec. So, right after we understood that information existed as energy, many historical discoveries were made in the world of physics. Modern mainstream physics now accepts that information exists on its own, even without the need to convert it into media like electrical signals. Furthermore, in the same way that matter is composed of molecules, we learned what it is that composes and transmits information. Is this getting into WX particles? What it is that composes and transmits information? You mean like magnetic storage or digital data? Normally you would be correct, but from a physics standpoint, that's wrong! Bzzzt, get out of my class! Then air, maybe? Our voices use air as an intermediary, right? It does fill the surrounding area, but that's still not right. Then, is there a molecule that composes information or something? Oh, are they going to get into dark matter? So close, but it's not quite that big. Mashiro wasn't good at physics, so she had a hard time approaching the correct answer. Okay. I don't blame her, because this is advanced shit for a 16-year-old to get into. Like, this is wild and advanced. This is latter years of college stuff. So I don't blame the 16-year-old girl for not understanding what the fuck Enna is talking about. Matsuhiko couldn't bear watching her anymore, so he lent a helping hand. It's an elementary particle, isn't it? Yes, that's correct, Mr. Tenkawa. Enna smiled and changed the text on the screen. An elementary particle is the smallest unit that composes matter. They're extraordinarily small dots that are obviously too small to be seen by the eye. There are many types of elementary particles that compose matter and mediate energy. They fill the entire universe. For example, the photon mediates electricity and magnetism. The graviton mediates gravity. They're too small to observe easily, and it's said there are many elementary particles yet to be discovered. But 16 years ago, a new elementary particle was discovered that composed and transmitted information. The BC particle. That's the general term for the elementary particle related to the use of BC. They're elementary particles that are molded and transmitted by the brain activity of all living animals, and thus humans. And evolution just decided to start spitting out people who can use them in the 21st century. Information was once believed to be something transmitted through the air or via telephone or internet lines. But those things were only facsimiles of information. Information in its truest sense existed in a completely different form. You kids use these BC particles as an intermediary when you use BC, but does it really feel like that? The students silently shook their heads. So wait, okay, so quantum entanglement, right, is when you hook up one molecule or particle to another one such that they move in sync, and they are affected in sync. What happens to one happens to the other, no matter how far apart they are. This is mostly theoretical. There have been some experiments that have claimed to successfully entangle particles, but I don't know if there's any veracity to them. Quantum entanglement is the core of some fictional faster-than-light communication devices, like the Ansible in Ender's Game. You entangle particles and you move them to basically emit Morse code at an advanced rate. And you can get messages. In some cases, you can get video. If you have a lot of entangled particles, you can do advanced messaging. And so I'm wondering if the BC particles, when a communicator uses BC to transmit information, speech or whatever, to another person, if they're temporarily entangling their BC particles with the other person's BC particles in their brains. I wonder if that's what's going on. The students silently shook their heads. Anna nodded as she continued. Now then, allow me to explain exactly what happens when information is exchanged when using BC. Mind Seeker. I know I've said before that BC is direct brain-to-brain communication, but let's take a look at what exactly happens from a physical standpoint to achieve that. Anna worked on her computer as she spoke, which caused the screen to display a figure of a person's head. First of all, these BC particles I've mentioned fill our surroundings and have the capability to move through all matter, which of course includes your skulls and your brains within. Also, brain activity itself is thought information, which is generated by the brain's electrical signals. This thought information is transmittable to the outside. In a similar fashion to how your voice uses the air as an intermediary in normal conversation, your thoughts use these elementary particles as an intermediary. Though obviously the information energy created from thoughts is extremely minuscule. When BC particles leave the brain, their energy diffuses in the blink of an eye, causing the thought information to disappear as well. Normally, it'd be impossible to use this method to convey your thoughts to others, but it is possible for certain individuals, namely you communicators. You use this part of the brain here. BC receptor. This part of the human brain, the prefrontal cortex, has an organ called the BC receptor. The function of this organ was once unknown, but is that based on actual human anatomy? Is there a piece of the brain that we don't know what it does in that spot? In recent years, its use in the transmission and reception of BC has been clarified. Your BC receptor's structure and capacity for growth is determined at birth by genetics. That is what determines your aptitude. And the extent to which you can consciously use it is what determines your ability level. I see. So in other words, the BC receptor in my brain is apparently quite different from that of an ordinary person. That said, he could not understand at all how that would actually allow them to use BC. But just as if she had seen through him, Anna continued. Now then, allow me to explain step by step the process that occurs with telepathy. First, the telepathy user perceives the characteristic brain waveform of the target the user wants to send their voice to. The characteristic brain waveform is the pattern of the electrical current that constantly flows through your BC receptor. It varies from person to person. That pattern is also mediated by BC particles and is faintly transmitted to your surroundings, even if you're not a communicator. Everyone with a functioning brain leaks out a minute amount of information energy. It's a truly minute amount of energy that most people can't perceive, but communicators can. Excuse me. Excuse me. By perceiving a target's pattern, you can use it to give your telepathy directionality. Basically, you can selectively specify who receives it. In terms of a phone call, it's akin to knowing someone's phone number. So, after you've perceived the target's characteristic brain waveform, you concentrate strongly on it. Doing so causes your characteristic brain waveform and that of the target to interact with atmospheric BC particles, thereby establishing a remote brain-brain connection mediated by the BC particles. In terms of a phone call, it's perhaps the same as connecting to the other person's line. Then you concentrate very, very, very hard on the message you want to send to your target, and the BC receptor inside the communicator's brain begins to work hard, which amplifies the normally minute information energy in the brain anywhere from several thousand to several 100 million times. The amplified energy is sent in the form of BC particles to the BC receptor in the target's brain, which causes the auditory complex to secrete neurotransmitters that make it sound like a voice is inside their head. In terms of a phone call, it would be actually talking to the person on the phone. Those are the 3 steps to the process of expressing telepathy. Just about everybody who had dealt with BC had heard at least a little about that process. But Salu kept nodding as she listened intently. So you're saying that communicators can generate information energy inside their brains? No, you can't generate energy. Well, I guess generate is a general term, like convert one form of energy into another, extract it from matter, and send it out. That sounds like you're creating something out of nothing. Does it use up our brain matter? It's not exactly the case. Actually, when a communicator uses BC, it consumes calories just like exercise does. I work out at the library. Essentially, to create information energy, you need to convert it from the body's heat energy. Huh? So you mean you can diet by using telepathy all day? Many people are under that impression, but before you can actually affect your weight, your brain usually tires out and loses concentration, rendering you incapable of continuing telepathy. So what does it say about Natsuhiko that he's been generating a brain ghost for the past 9 years straight? Too bad. Well, in any case, since communicators can process information energy through concentration, they are in a sense similar to Maxwell's demon. But in the end, you cannot create something out of nothing. Not even demons can break universal laws. I understand now, so communicators are still just a category of normal human beings. Even Salu nodded in agreement with Enna's words. There are quite a few communicators who can use telepathy despite not knowing a thing about its underlying mechanisms or theories. In the same way that you don't need to understand the physiology of the lungs and diaphragm to breathe. But the part those communicators easily fail at is the process that precedes the actual telepathy. That is, perceiving the target's characteristic brain waveform and giving their telepathy directionality. Ow. Oh. Unless you get this step correct, your telepathy will leak everywhere. Everyone in the vicinity will hear your message. Now, I know I'm saying this as someone who can't use BC, but leaky telepathy is annoying, so I don't like it. What I do like is smart use of telepathy. If others hear your confessions of love or other such private talk, it ruins the purpose of telepathy. Pointed admonition. Very pointed. He probably only hallucinates Yuri at home. That's a fair point. But he's there half the day. Well, okay. Mashiro sees Yuri while Natsuhiko is asleep. Unless he's making her think she sees she has been seeing Yuri, but he's altering her memory. We did get a whole speech about memory being unreliable. So, well, he definitely generates Yuri while he's awake. Enna's remark reminded Natsuhiko of business as usual at school. How telepathy would fly about at random, and how Enna would have to use the intercom to warn against it. True, it really is annoying. The moment that thought crossed Natsuhiko's mind, Enna fiddled with the computer once more. And with that, let's now introduce the Enneagram. The thing Enna's named after, and which the whole social system in this game is built on. Your theory is that Mashiro is aware of the Yuri situation and she's just acting along to help Natsuhiko? Hasn't she responded to Yuri? She has directly responded to Yuri. Yes, okay. So yeah, she's seeing Yuri. And with that, a diagram of an irregular 9-pointed star appeared on the screen. It was a figure often seen in BC practice. Now, you might be asking the Enneagram again, but the basics are always important. Also, we need to exposit for the player. Today, let's try practicing with this in mind. Salou looked at the figure quizzically and muttered, "Enneagram? Is this figure not widespread in the French method of BC training programs?" "Yeah." "I see. Well, let me use this opportunity to explain it once again. Everyone else, listen closely too, to make sure you know it front and back." Enna then began to explain the figure. This figure was originally created as a personality test for another purpose, but we now use it in BC training to classify the 9 types of characteristic brain waveforms. The Enneagram is totally just a personality test, right? With pseudoscience backing. Even though the characteristic brain waveform varies from person to person, they don't deviate too far from these 9 types. It's mostly minor individual variations. Yeah, I think doing A first and then B preserves mystery, and really puts you in Watasei's shoes. Getting all the exposition and world building when you start B after playing through A, I think is a good structure to the game. And I'm assuming that the ending of B will spoil stuff about A. The Enneagram is spread in both business and spiritual circles. Yeah, it's just a personality test. It's astrology. It's bullshit, I'll bet. Some business people are very superstitious, yeah. You should fall into one of these 9 types as well, Miss Sanamiya. I understand now. Salou nodded deeply at Enna's explanation. So basically, you can use this as a model to help perceive your target's brain waveform. From there, you can adjust for individual variation, right? Very perceptive of you, Miss Sanamiya. The Enneagram is indeed a BC beginner's guide to perceiving brain waveforms. Incidentally, a person's characteristic brain waveform is said to reflect that person's personality. It's just a personality test. What type do I think I am? I don't remember all 9 types. Perceiving someone's waveform could help you understand them and serve as the first step to forming an emotional bond, though it might be a little forced to say that much. Anna smiled wryly before addressing the students. Anyway, class, let's practice telepathy with a particular focus on directionality today. So, as always, split up into groups of 2, okay? And with that, the students turned to their neighbors and began practicing. Natsuhiko was about to partner up with Mashiro, but... Oh wait, that means Salou's missing a partner. Can't practice alone, so I'll go sleep. Hey, you can't do that, Salu. Mashiro turned her head and spoke to Enna. Miss Enna, can we form a group of 3 to include Miss Sanamiya? The Enneagram's more fun to use as something for fiction or building characters. It's used in Zero Escape and other games to come up with 9 characters with different personalities. Yeah, like, building characters out of it is fun. You can use that as a basis to start from, and then build a character out from there. But using it in the real world as if it's actually useful for determining interpersonal relationships is just as bullshit as Zodiac nonsense. It's fun to think about, but actually basing anything on it in the real world is a bad idea. Of course! Ah, that's right. I believe you've already mastered telepathy, Miss Toba. So could you lead Mr. Tenkama and Miss Sanamiya for me? Yes, ma'am. Leave it to me. Good. Please, begin then. And with that, Enna started to look around the classroom. Mashiro smirked and turned to Natsuhiko and Salu. Okay then, let's get things started, guys. You sure seem enthusiastic. Look, I know she said to lead us, but you don't really need to do anything special, right? What's that, Natsuhiko? Talking back to your senior drill instructor, are we? Senior drill instructor? As Natsuhiko spoke in confusion, Mashiro puffed up her chest in pride. I am Gunnery Sergeant Mashiro Toba, your senior BC drill instructor. From now on, the first and last words out of your filthy sewers will be, Sir, do you babies understand that? Those were lines from a famous war movie, though she did try to tone down the language. Mashiro got scary all of a sudden. Why's that? Just play along and say, Sir, yes, sir. That's the only way to please her when she gets like this. Okay, sir, yes, sir. Good, then let's commence training on the double. Mashiro faced Natsuhiko and Salu as she spoke. First, perceive each other's brain waveforms. Even baby communicators can do it if they try. Now move it! Sir, yes, sir. Natsuhiko played along for the time being as he focused on Salu in front of him. Oh, is this going to be the first person he can really read? This is the only part I'm good at. Oh, he can do this just fine. Okay, it's just he can't transmit. He shut his eyes and sharpened his senses. And eventually, Salu's characteristic brain waveform flickered in the back of Natsuhiko's mind. I saw it. It's Type 4. It was the waveform of artists and eccentrics. Really? Man, she's been raised in Labo and used as a guinea pig for her whole life. When she's supposed to be an eccentric artist, that's a crime. Hers was quite varied from the archetypal characteristic, but he somehow managed to perceive it correctly. Natsuhiko opened his eyes and spoke to Salu. I perceived it. You're a Type 4, Salu. Salu opened her eyes wide as Natsuhiko pointed at the Enneagram. Is that so? Never knew that. What about you, Salu? Did you perceive my waveform? Probably. I think it's that one. Salu pointed to the upper part of the Enneagram. Wow, Salu, you really are a quick learner. That's right, I'm a Type 7. Natsuhiko didn't quite understand why it was his classification, but it was said to be the brain waveform of enthusiastic people. Well, you were enthusiastic as a kid, so... Well, I guess predicting personality with brainwaves is kind of like predicting it with blood types. That is, it's not that accurate at all. Yeah, seriously. God, it is so weird that Japanese people view blood type as a matchmaking thing, as if personality compatibility could be found via blood type. It's why so many anime character breakdowns talk about the character's blood type, because it's a thing in Japanese culture that you can tell personality traits from blood type, which is so bizarre. Yeah, how did blood types come about for personality types? May as well do palm reading, yeah. Not much weirder than deciding it based on when you were born or where the stars are. That's true. But like, there's some underlying logic to star signs, because I think like it's basically what radiation was affecting your brain when you were born is the way I'd put it in scientific terms. It's still bullshit, but there is an explanation for it. But what could blood... Are they talking about, like, blood types affecting the brain? Or... astrology types are so weird. As Natsuhiko pondered, Mashiro spoke with satisfaction. Today, you people are no longer babies. Today, you are communicators. You're part of a brotherhood. Huh, boot camp over already? Nah, well, it's tiring to keep talking like that, so I just wanted to go back to normal. That helps a lot. Now, that hurts. Mashiro laughed out loud before continuing. Now then, why don't we try actually communicating through telepathy? The trick to telepathy is to concentrate hard with all your mind. So it might be easier to go with something you feel from the bottom of your heart, rather than something you don't really mean. I see. So, something I feel from the bottom of my heart, huh? As Natsuhiko pondered that trick, Salu tugged on his sleeve. Natsuhiko, try it. Okay then, let's get to it. Natsuhiko concentrated to the best of his ability. I'm starving. Maybe the rice gruel was too good with helping digestion. I hope class ends soon so we can have lunch already. He intended to send the message that he truly felt from the bottom of his heart. But no matter how desperately he concentrated, Salu said nothing, and her expression didn't change at all. So, did you get my telepathy? Not at all. I see. I knew it. It turns out the idea originated from 1930. Some guy published a paper promoting the idea, and he actively compared it to the ancient idea of the four humors from Hippocrates. Scientists criticized it and no one believed it, but it caught on in popular culture. Yeah, unfortunately, you see that a lot. Particularly vaccines causing autism went through that process. Oh, so gross. Caught on in the 70s. Ooh. How did people dig up that paper after 40 years? That should have languished in obscurity. Interest in the theory was revived in the 1970s with a book by Masahiko Nomi, a journalist with no medical background. He graduated from the engineering department of the University of Tokyo. Few Japanese psychologists criticized him at that time, so he continued to demonstrate statistically significant data in various fields and published several books with these results. God, what a disservice. to society. He really was bad at BC. Or he's incredible at it, but his whole brain power is being used at all times. The telepathy he used 3 days ago was looking more and more like some sort of fluke. Stay patient and take turns practicing. Salu, you're up next. She thinks so hard that Natsuhiko has a seizure. Roger. Salu put her hand up to her temple. Her sprite didn't reflect that, though. She looks serious. That was their first time seeing Salu using BC. Natsuhiko watched in bated breath, it's with bated breath, to see the extent of her ability. I'm hungry. That's the voice he heard. But it wasn't information firing off in his brain, but her natural voice passing through her lips. Salu, you spoke out loud, you know? Yes. Salu calmly answered Mashiro's question. Wait, Salu, are you perhaps bad at BC too? I will save. Okay, hang on. Save date, December 6th, 2023. Alright, what do we got? Salu High is what I'm going to do. Bad? Yes, essentially. Or she can't do it at all. Can she do it at all? Have we seen her do it? I don't think we've seen Salu do BC. I think she might just be a... Well, why was she getting experimented on if she can't do BC? I don't think we've ever seen her do telepathy. Huh. I see. The school naturally attracted students who wanted to become great communicators. People who were fully aware of how bad they were at BC, like Natsuhiko and Salu, were a tiny minority. That alone was enough to make him feel genuine camaraderie. I guess everyone really does have a weak spot after all, huh? Shut up. No, I wasn't making fun of you or anything. I guess I'm a little relieved, actually. Salu looked on dubiously as Natsuhiko tried to gloss things over, and that's when Enna spoke up to them. Oh my, Miss Sanemiya, are you not good with BC? That appears to be the case. I see, but I heard Miss Sanemiya had rank D aptitude. Aptitude was, in a sense, a communicator's talent or latent ability. Rank D aptitude was 5th from the top. It was the lowest aptitude among students at this school, but you should be able to master telepathy depending on how hard you train. So how about it? Actually, I have trouble using telepathy. Not only am I bad at BC, but it's also dependent on my physical condition, which is why I lift so often. You're not feeling good today? Yes, but I can't use it. I can't use it at all, especially during menstruation and such. Why are we going there? Huh? Natsuhiko and the others were taken aback by her abrupt use of that word. Don't focus on it. I see. Well, try not to push yourself, okay? Enna forced a stiff smile and let them be. You know, Salu, I don't think it's good for you to say stuff like that in the presence of boys. Really? Okay, I'll be careful. Yeah, that'd be for the best. Natsuhiko once again began to think that she really was an odd girl. So I guess you two are around the same level, huh? In that case, let Gunnery Sergeant Mashiro here show you a textbook example. Sure, that sounds like it'd be good for Salu. Please do. Okay then, I'll do some practice myself and show you guys a bunch of different types of telepathy. Mashiro took out her parapsychology textbook as she spoke. There were several BC skill training methods written in there. For example, according to the text, the best shortcut to improving telepathy skill was to actually use that ability. Oh yeah, that's a great cover for not being able to use telepathy. Here she just goes, I can't use it during that time of the month, and guess what? It's Shark Week. Then that's a good cover for it, but still uncomfortable. So, starting with Telepathy Improvement Manual Part 15, Transmitting Abstract Thoughts. This is practice for sending thoughts that can't be expressed in words. Thoughts that can't be expressed in words. For example, you can send abstract messages that are hard to describe, like happy feelings or sad emotions. Or hunger. So with that said, I'll try sending you guys some different emotions through telepathy. Close your eyes and concentrate on receiving them. Okay. Natsuhiko and Salu closed their eyes. And eventually, Mashiro's voice rang out in their heads. Okay, so first I'll start with a calm emotion. First, I'll send it to Natsuhiko and then to Salu. And then a gentle feeling welled up from the bottom of their hearts. Oh, I feel kind of relaxed. I feel all snuggly. I know, right? By the way, this is generally how I always feel. Good for you. That must be relaxing. Next up is a sad emotion. The moment Mashiro said that, the pit of Natsuhiko's heart was torn out. What is this? I want to cry now. This is how I felt when I dropped my wallet the other day. It makes me want to cry just sending it to you. Okay, time to pull ourselves back together. Next, I'll send you what it feels like to fall in love. How would you know, Mashiro? Right after he heard those words, Natsuhiko felt his heart clench. Whoa, it's so mushy and saccharine, yet so passionate. Who do you feel that for, Mashiro? Mashiro, is this how you yourself feel when you're in love? No, this is what I imagined as I read a romance manga the day before yesterday. Wait, what the hell kind of manga did you read to get this? It feels so adult, and, well, a little erotic, too. That's a secret, though it's true that its content might be a little too mature for Salu, though. Well, stop beaming it into her brain! And with that, Mashiro's telepathy performance came to a close. And, well, that's how it goes. How was it, guys? What do you think of expert-level telepathy? It felt quite mysterious. I never met such a skilled communicator back home. That was a first. You're amazing, Mashiro. Yeah, you're getting better and better at telepathy, huh? It's all thanks to training. Porn is probably a weapon in the battlefield of psychics? Yeah, probably, actually. It's all thanks to training. Well, it just goes to show how if you train hard enough, you can gain access to communication that only communicators can use. Interesting. What else is possible? Let's see. Well, there's stuff like transmitting complex logical thought processes. Beaming math directly into your brain. Okay, so let me look at the text for a little bit as I send you the value of pi. As Mashiro said this, a long string of numbers pounded Natsuhiko's brain. 3.14159265358979323846264338327950288. That feels kind of gross. But I'm pretty sure you can still convey this with normal words. Well, it's at least a convenience since it takes less time than explaining verbally. But it's most effective to do simple, straightforward training like this. The truth was that outside of her training time with Natsuhiko, Mashiro would work hard at this sort of practice. And as a result, her telepathy precision increased, and she became capable of many different types of telepathy applications. At any rate, it's an extremely interesting ability, so you two should get into it and try hard too. First, let's start with point-blank range transmission to a familiar target. Sir, yes, sir. At Mashiro's suggestion, the two of them began telepathy practice a little more seriously than usual. But in the end, before either Natsuhiko or Salu could successfully send a single message, the first hour of class came to an end. I tried my best, but it's still hard. Looks like we've still got a tough journey ahead of us, huh? Now, just take it nice and slow. As they were having that conversation, Enna addressed the students. Class, if you've got any questions about today's lecture, feel free to ask. My vast stock of BC knowledge is always ready for open ears. Vast stock of BC knowledge, huh? I usually ignore all that, but... Feeling just a little bit more open to BC now, Natsuhiko decided to ask a small question for once. Professor? Oh my, Mr. Tenkawa, how rare of you to ask a question. What is it? I know you said that more and more BC discoveries have been made in recent years, but telepathy and stuff existed even before the Grand BC discovery, right? So how was it all treated back in those days? I see. That dates back to when I was a child. Let's see. Well, first of all, nobody even considered the possibility that humans could directly conduct brain-brain exchange of information through elementary particles. I can imagine that was before we even knew about the true form of information after all. But it's possible that everyone vaguely perceived the existence of BC itself, though. What had previously been labeled as a person's atmosphere or aura was likely their characteristic brain waveform in actuality. Huh, so that way of thinking existed back then too. Right after Natsuhiko spoke, Salu cut into the conversation. Excuse me, Enna, have non-communicators ever used telepathy in the past? Enna was taken aback by a student calling her by just her first name, but she still answered in good humor. Very good question, Miss Sanamiya. It's quite rare, but it is possible depending on the situation. For example, there's a so-called premonition, like that phenomenon when someone dies that causes their family to somehow sense it from far away. What happens is that on the verge of death, survival instincts kick in, giving a temporary surge of brain functionality, which, of course, includes the BC receptor as well. The prevailing viewpoint is that the brain then transmits telepathy to the person's family. In other words, it's the person's first and last use of telepathy in their life. How do you do that over miles? I see. Very interesting. Mashiro then added even more to the conversation. So, Miss Enna, does that mean that things once considered a cult in the past can be explained as a sort of BC? Exactly. That's what makes parapsychology so interesting. It's a field that scientifically elucidates all kinds of mysterious phenomena. It's no exaggeration to say that with the discovery of BC particles, every sort of occultic phenomena you can think of has become the target of scientific research. In an extreme example, some people are even considering the possibility that ghosts just might be another type of BC. Huh? Ghosts? Topical, considering you've got a brain ghost, Natsuhiko. Yes, remember how I said that people on the verge of death have expressed telepathy even without being communicators? BC energy created by telepathy starts decaying after it's sent, but it's not like it fades to zero immediately. So in other words, with or without a target, extraordinarily strong BC can remain in place for a while, which means if you go to that person's place of death, you can hear their voice from when they were alive? Exactly, like curse you and such. Furthermore, since BC can also express emotions, the bitterness the person felt at death could accompany their voice. That's frightening. Well, you're going to experience it soon if you haven't already. So maybe Yuri is actually just a ghost. Yeah, my theory is that Yuri's ghost has latched onto Natsuhiko's brain in some way, and he's projecting her. Well, I don't know. Okay, so I think Natsuhiko is creating the Yuri at home, but the Yuri in Labo might be a ghost. That's frightening. But that also means that the feelings of the dead remain in this world, doesn't it? It sure is romantic, isn't it, Miss Toba? But that actually might be the case. If your thoughts, memories, and spirit all exist as energy, then it's only natural for your feelings to remain in the world of the living after death, isn't it? Anna and Mashiro smiled at each other. Geez, these two really like that sort of stuff, don't they? As Natsuhiko mulled over the content of their conversation, break time came to an end. Alright. I'm going to save here and take a quick break. I'll be back in a few minutes, guys. I need something to eat. Okay, back. The stock phrase used by ghosts in Japanese folklore is urumeshiya, which can be translated roughly as I curse or envy you. So that's what Yusuke Urumeshi's name means. Also, I recognize that word from a J-pop song that I like. Phantome by Raoul. And that word always jumped out at me from that song. And now I know what it means, I guess. It's ghost stuff. And thus began the second hour of class. Enna explained the next topic to the students. Now then, class, let's practice empathy for the next hour. Reach out and seize the brain. Empathy is the ability to read other people's minds. It's quintessential to BC. That said, there's nobody in the class that can use empathy yet, is there? What about Salu? After seeing the students meekly shake their heads, Enna continued. Indeed, empathy is several times more difficult than telepathy, even though the underlying theory is pretty much the same. Enna tampered with the computer as she spoke, causing text to appear on the screen. You start out with the same trick you used for telepathy. That is, you perceive the target's characteristic brain waveform and establish a brain-brain connection. During this connection, your target will emit trace amounts of information energy, regardless of whether they're a communicator or not. Thinking naturally causes you to emit energy. It's even less energy than the characteristic brain waveform, and it's quite complicated. But experienced communicators are able to perceive it. The communicator mentally analyzes the perceived information energy. If they successfully analyze it, an auditory hallucination occurs in their auditory cortex, and they hear the target's mental voice. Okay. Hang on. What if Natsuhiko is empathizing with Yuri's ghost that is trapped in Labo and projecting her into the minds of those around him at home? This game got weird. And that is the three-step process to expressing empathy. Upon hearing her explanation, I see. It's easy to understand when you say it like that, but it's easier said than done. One student spoke up first. The other students nodded in agreement. True, I know it's a lot harder than it sounds, too. In terms of a phone call, it's as if the other side is talking quietly to ensure you normally wouldn't hear them. It's the same with normal conversation. You can try talking to someone whenever you want, but sometimes it's hard to get someone else to start talking. Enna smiled a little awkwardly as she continued. But in any case, there's one important principle you must never forget when using empathy. Hang on! Hang on. What if Labo has been experimenting on Yuri's ghost and she's the one emitting all the WX particles to irradiate the facility? Hang on. Huh. That's a thought. But in any case, there's one important principle you must never forget when using empathy. That is, your target absolutely must open their heart to you. Yeah, we don't know who the mystery girl who died was. I was thinking about that. Maybe they were trying to grow Yuri a new body. If you try to use empathy on a target who has not opened their heart, their mental voice will be plagued with noise. Open your heart, it'll be all right. When two brains connect, the target's brain instinctively senses danger and actively works to combat having its thoughts read. That self-defense mechanism manifests in the form of noise. Which is why, when you use empathy, you must first get your target to think it's okay for you to read their mind. Well, good fucking luck with that. Otherwise, even if you do invoke empathy, you won't be able to properly hear your target's mental voice. I see, but why are human brains equipped with that sort of defense mechanism? Why do we have telepathy organs in our brain to begin with? Upon hearing Mashiro's question, Enna grinned and replied. No idea. Huh? What do you mean? BC theory is still under development, you see. There are various theories, but nothing conclusive yet. For example, one theory states that when people feel uncomfortable about someone else, their thoughts begin to run wild, and that's what causes the noise. And that's what the ferret actually detects. One theory even states that communicators have existed for ages, and the noise is a defense mechanism acquired by non-communicators to protect themselves from them. There are many theories, but for the time being, it's a mystery. For now, I believe it's fine to just accept it as a fact of life. But still, if it weren't for this defense mechanism, empathy would be regarded as a truly dangerous ability, wouldn't it? I think it's a dangerous ability no matter what. A faint shadow casted over Enna's face as she said this. That's when Salu suddenly spoke up. Are there any students in this school who can use empathy? You would want to know, so you can shield your mind, wouldn't you, Salu? Huh? Yes, indeed, there are quite a few scattered from the elementary campus all the way through to that high school campus. So even if empathy seems extremely difficult to use, it's by no means a mere pipe dream for you kids. By the way, if you become able to use empathy, you're awarded Ability Level 4 certification or higher unconditionally. Whoa! The students got excited at those words. In this school, students with high BC ability levels were treated preferentially. Ability Level 4 and 5 students in particular received special privileges such as tuition waivers and scholarships. They even received recommendations to major in parapsychology in top colleges. Furthermore, students who can use empathy gain the respect of other students for that feat alone. I'm sure at an ordinary school, being able to read minds would get you beat up and ostracized. But that was far from the case at Rokume Academy. Rokume Academy severely punished any instance of discrimination against empaths. Since the school's original intent was to provide communicators protection against discrimination, this rule was strictly enforced. That said, that's a huge landmark for everyone to aim for. I'm sure it's worth giving it your best shot. Yes, ma'am. Of course, those of you who can't do telepathy can continue practicing that. Practice according to your own levels. Now then, class, team up with your neighbor and commence practice. And with Enna's energetic command, the students all began working at once. I forgot something. Hang on. Alright, it's out of my head. I don't remember what I've forgotten. Mashiro looked around the noisy classroom and spoke confidently. Alrighty, it's training time for me now. Mashiro, are you going to practice empathy? Yeah, even though I can use telepathy, I can't use empathy at all. Did Dr. Tenkawa not tell you? That's right, she did tell me about your and Natsuhiko's ability levels. Mashiro is ability level 3, and Natsuhiko is ability level 0. Did Mom really have to say all that? Natsuhiko let out a whew. Ability level was a measurement of how much practical control one had over BC. In other words, it was a sort of measurement of one's worth. There were 6 levels in total, from 0 to 5. Level 0 cannot use telepathy. Level 1 can use very short-range telepathy. Level 2 can use short-range telepathy. Level 3 can use long-range telepathy. Level 4 can use long-range telepathy and very short-range empathy. Level 5 can use very long-range telepathy and short-range empathy. The level divisions were roughly as shown above, omitting a few particulars. At ability level 3, Mashiro is a communicator capable of long-range telepathy. In other words, she was just one step away from being able to use empathy. Now then, since I helped you guys out for the first hour, this time you help me out, okay? Open your hearts! Okay, sounds fair enough. Roger. Let's start off with Natsuhiko. May I read your mind? Sure, if you can. Ah! Jump scare! Once Natsuhiko gave his consent, Mashiro went right up into his face. A little too close for comfort, don't you think? Sorry, but BC is just easier the closer you are to your target. Also, she really wants to kiss you, Natsuhiko. Mashiro closed her eyes and said no more. Certainly enough, the energy of the BC particles used in BC transmissions would decrease proportionally to the distance between the Esper and the target. Hang on, can empaths read the minds of people in comas? That would solve a lot of questions about whether people in comas are aware or not. Huh. Naturally, since Mashiro was a beginner to empathy, it would only make sense for her to get right up close to Natsuhiko, but this feels so awkward. Natsuhiko got uncomfortable as he followed Mashiro's lead and closed his eyes too. Oh, that's not opening your heart. Natsuhiko, are you opening your heart? Mashiro spoke from right in front of him. Natsuhiko whispered in reply. Yeah, probably. You sure? I can't hear your mental voice at all, though. Open up some more. Easier said than done. How am I supposed to do that? No need to think too hard about it. Just try to get into a friendly mood with me. And then focus on some easy-to-understand words. I am sending the word frog to you, Mashiro. Okay. Natsuhiko drove out all thoughts of embarrassment as he tried to focus. I'm really hungry. The second hour is really too long to bear. I'm hungry, so damn hungry. That moment, Natsuhiko noticed Mashiro's body twitch. I heard it! What? Natsuhiko opened his eyes in surprise. Staring right at him was Mashiro's overly confident face. Yeah, I heard your mental voice, the cries of your spirit. What did you hear? Mashiro's so gosh darn cute. No, he didn't think that, Mashiro. I know it's just for training, but I'm so blessed just to be able to be this close to her. I'm sorry, but that's incorrect. Not a single part of that was right. Natsuhiko stared coldly at Mashiro as she spouted off lines far detached from reality. You're so mean, Natsuhiko. You could have at least played along a little. But you're always like that, you know? It was almost a habit for Mashiro to screw around during empathy practice. Mashiro had rank B aptitude. With a value that high, it wouldn't be strange at all for her to have eventually gained the use of empathy. But she remained at ability level 3 for the past few years. And yet, she never took practice seriously. Well, you don't take practice seriously either, Natsuhiko. And that's why you'll never acquire empathy at this rate. I don't want to hear that from you, Mr. Level 0. I bet we just lack affinity, that's all. Okay then, Salu, will you help me practice? Okay. Shuts her heart off. Mashiro got close to Salu and closed her eyes. Is Salu opening her heart? Natsuhiko watched in bated breath. It's with bated breath! And eventually, Mashiro opened her eyes wide. I heard it. I heard Salu's voice. She said, I'm hungry. Correct. Hey, Mashiro, you can tell that even without using empathy. I mean, she said so herself a few minutes ago. You sure are full of complaints today, huh, Natsuhiko? That's not the problem here. Natsuhiko and Mashiro's voices filled the BC room. They spent some more time practicing, but in the end, Mashiro didn't come up with any results at all. Eventually, Enna spoke up near the end of class. Miss Toba, did you figure out any of the tricks to using empathy? Not at all. Voices saying, same here, popped up all across the classroom. No, it's nothing to be disheartened about. I think it's a transcendently difficult technique too. So how exactly do we go about acquiring it? How indeed? I'm not a communicator, so I don't believe I can give you any practical advice, but from what I've heard, according to a certain researcher, your intention is quite important when training your BC ability potential. Intention? Yes, when using telepathy, your intention is that you want to tell someone else your feelings. When using empathy, your intention is that you want to know someone else's feelings. It may seem like a simple mental theory, but it's actually quite important. BC is, after all, communication using the brain, so the importance of that intention is only natural, isn't it? Yeah, I think I understand. Natsuhiko also felt like he understood. After all, if that were indeed the case, it'd only be obvious that someone as disinterested in BC as Natsuhiko would be unable to even use telepathy. You know, the more I see of Enna, the more I like her. Like, 10 out of 10 would ask out to dinner. She's a nerd, she's smart, she's passionate, she's pretty, she's got giant Bonkonica hoogs. She's the whole package. But then he thought about the accident several days ago and how he tried to warn Mashiro with all his heart to get away from the car. Maybe that's why I was only able to use telepathy that one time. Enna continued as Natsuhiko pondered to himself. In essence, BC can be called a technique meant to exchange ideas and intentions, an ability meant to reach out and establish bonds with people. When you truly want to convey your feelings to someone, when you truly want to know what's in their heart, perhaps that's when your abilities will bloom. Everyone might have varying aptitude ranks, but you all should have what it takes. All that's left is likely a problem of mind over matter. Literally. So don't lose hope. Keep practicing, okay? Enna finished speaking right as the bell rang. Okay, that's the end of today's practice. Thanks for the good 2-hour block period. Class ended, and thus lunch break began. Natsuhiko left the classroom and made the arduous journey through the whirlpool of telepathy. Miss Munakata, I gave it a lot of thought and have finally made up my mind. Huh? All things considered, I've decided that I really do need to talk to you face to face after all. Will you come to the roof after school? Oh my god, the whole school's gonna be on the roof after school, buddy. Okay, that's all I asked for. So wait, is Munakata a student or a teacher? You've conveyed your feelings well enough through telepathy, so there might not be much left to talk about. But still, we really do need to meet face to face. Yeah. Now that the whole school knows about our situation, there's nothing left to fear at all. I promise I'll come to the roof for you, so don't you dare run away. They're a student, okay. Well, whether I say okay or not is a different story. I look forward to seeing you after school. Bye. Okay. Wow, how bittersweet. That's youth for you. Why are we even bothering with baseball at a time like this? Wow, read the room, baseball hater. Man, Benizaki, I guess we're still incapable of directional telepathy. Yeah, what do you want to do, Shin? I'm completely open after school. Looks like there's going to be a love confession on the roof. Want to go mess with them? I knew it! Everyone's going to be on the roof. Hey, you idiot. Don't you dare get in the way of love. I was joking. Well, might as well do something. So why don't we help so he can confess calmly? We can ward off any curious onlookers or something. That sounds good. Wait, why are we still talking about this with telepathy? Ah, crap. Looks like it's become a bad habit of mine. Hello, everybody. We are Angel Kamiya and the Communicators. Uh-oh. I bet everyone's dying to see the exciting conclusion of the storybook romance of Miss Munakata and Mr. Nameless. Did you write a song about it? So to send them our blessings, we here at the Light Music Club would like to play one of our songs. Please give a listen to Myself, Yourself. That's not even your song. Try to play an original song for once. Your band name sucks. But I think it's a good name. Natsuhiko ignored the commotion in his head and muttered. The miss is more trying to get across whatever honorific he's using. Fair enough. Jeez, another complete waste of time today. Agreed. Now, slow and steady wins the race. Does it now? Well, I do admit that the last part of the discussion was kind of interesting. When Natsuhiko shrugged his shoulders, Salu tugged at his sleeve and implored him. More importantly, let's eat already. We don't have infinite lunchtime. True, how about we all eat together on top of the roof? Then let's go buy food first. The three of them made their way. They stocked up on baked goods and started heading for the roof. Myself, Yourself is another visual novel Takumi Nakazawa worked on, so cute reference. That is cute. Natsuhiko bought a katsu sandwich and yakisoba bread. Mashiro bought a sandwich, donut, waffle, and pudding. As for Salu, she bought 7 varieties of bread in total. Growing girl. Salu, you sure bought a lot, huh? Because I wasn't sure which ones would taste good, so I wanted to try a variety. I definitely did not give in to gluttony. Just curious how they taste. Well, okay. Let's leave it at that. Mashiro and Natsuhiko looked at each other and smiled wryly. That's obviously not the case, since she kept saying how hungry she was a while ago. Perhaps Salu was ashamed of her own gluttony. I'm betting her eyes are bigger than her stomach. But you're not one to talk, Mashiro. All you bought was tons of sweet-looking foods. That's true. This girl here can eat a lot more than you'd expect. Would it have hurt to choose between either the donut or the waffle? Don't worry, my body's built to not get fat, no matter how much I eat. As they were having that conversation, they reached a turn in the hallway, when suddenly... Ah! June! Yo! Whoa there! Mashiro ended up tumbling down. She apparently ran into a woman on the other side of the turn. Ow, ow, ow! Oh boy, you okay? The woman that bumped into Mashiro reached out her hand. My bad. I wasn't looking. Can you stand? Yeah, but her donut's ruined. Yes, I'm fine. I wasn't looking where I was going either. Wait, huh? Mashiro exclaimed in surprise as she got up. Aren't you? Have we met somewhere? Yeah, we saw you at the car accident. Mashiro, do you know her? We were all at the scene of that accident, remember? Those words jogged Natsuhiko's memory. So you must be the rescue worker that responded to the traffic accident 3 days ago. Relax, we're on the scene. That's her. Said rescue worker raised her voice as if she too had just remembered. You're the kids who reported that accident, aren't you? Huh? You remember? I'm touched. Touched? The first time I saw your rescue work in action, I became an instant fan. You were so awesome. It's not that big a deal. I was only assigned to the squad last month. So June met these kids very recently. I kind of thought that June knew these kids from way back or something. Huh. Is that so? But still, that's all the more awesome. Just a short time after you got assigned, you're already doing dramatic rescues. The worker blushed as Mashiro showered her with praise. It's not like I do it for the praise, but I really do appreciate it. Seeing that smile gave Natsuhiko an impression. I see. Guess she genuinely likes helping people out. He thought it made her a noble person, but it also made him feel like a commoner in comparison. But Mashiro, on the other hand, seemed to take a liking to her. She cheerfully introduced herself. I'm Mashiro Toba, and these are my friends. Hi, I'm Natsuhiko Tenkawa. Luis Yui Sanamiya. Huh. Oh, you're half Japanese? Guess I should have expected the fabled Rokame Academy to be international to boot. By the way, I'm Jun Moribe. Call me June. Okay, nice to meet you, June. Still, I didn't expect them to send in a rescue team for an accident like that. Yeah, you're right. Don't you usually mobilize for more large-scale disasters? Well, thing is, we just happened to be deployed on a different case nearby that day. We got contacted on our way back, so we rushed over there. Being on a rescue squad means going from mission to mission. It ain't no cakewalk, that's for sure. Sounds tough. Nah, but still, I'm doing this because I like it. But, June, what made you decide to enlist in a rescue squad to begin with? I think it must be super tough for a girl to be a rescue squad member. June pondered that question for a moment before answering. Don't laugh, but I guess it's because I wanted to be a hero. That's a fine motivation, June. A hero? Oh, do I have a June? I have a June. No, this is with Mashiro. Huh. Okay. Mashiro, hi. A hero? Yeah, I've always looked up to them ever since I was a kid. Natsuhiko found himself intrigued by her words. Someone's actually living my childhood dream? Natsuhiko himself had wished to be that sort of person at one point. And so did Mashiro. Bayo Bayo Episode 3 Commentary. I know exactly what you mean. When I was a kid, I too swore to myself that I would protect this town I so dearly love. You've got promise, I'll tell you that. Once you graduate from here, you should enlist in a firefighter academy. But that's kind of rare, isn't it? A girl wanting to become a hero instead of a heroine? Well, to be honest, ever since I was a kid, I've been something of a tomboy. I always wanted to be the hero who saves people instead of the heroine who needs to be saved. So I thought if I wanted to be a real-life hero, I guess a rescue worker would be the closest thing. It's kind of tough to define what exactly a hero is, but saving people's lives is pretty damn heroic, I'd say. Yeah, I think so too. There's nothing more valuable than the treasure of life. Oh, you're such a good girl. There. Mashiro smiled as June patted her on the head. These two kind of seem like they're on the same wavelength. If nothing else, both June and Mashiro seem to enjoy helping people. As Natsuhiko pondered the similarity, June continued. Well, to be honest, pretty much everyone who joins Sirius is kind of like that, I guess. The pay's low and the job's hard, and yet there's no end to those who want to join nonetheless. Now that I think about it, there was another female member, wasn't there? Yeah, that's our lieutenant. And she's amazing. No matter how dangerous the situation is, she calmly leaps in and gets the job done flawlessly. She's a perfect woman. Oh, that's cool too. If the lieutenant's like that, then what's the captain like? Oh, the captain? The captain's a little, June made a slightly bitter face at that thought. A little what? Yeah, tell us, June. Wait, don't tell me there's something wrong with him. No, not at all. He's a super elite too, but he's just a little bit too cool-headed for me. Kinda dry, too. Even Natsuhiko and Mashiro could tell she was struggling to find the right words. Does his personality clash with June's, maybe? Yeah, he dries her right up. As soon as he pondered that possibility, June looked at her watch and spoke up. Whoa, would you look at the time? Oh, were you busy? Actually, I came here for work, to give some disaster prevention guidance, see? Oh, is that so? I'm sorry for taking up your time. No, it's okay. I had fun talking with you guys. Mashiro, hi. Well, don't hesitate to call if something happens. Later. And with that, June waved her hand and left. Mashiro muttered as she watched her leave. She was so cool. Mashiro's face lit up in admiration. Natsuhiko reflected on the conversation June and Mashiro just had. There's nothing more valuable than the treasure of life, huh? Now that I think about it, I might have said something like that long ago. How long ago was the question? Oh, it's flashback time. So, Shy, I'm not feeling terribly well. We're about halfway through what I owe you. And I think I owe you some extra time. Let me see how much extra time I owe you. Oh yeah, I owe you a bunch of extra time. How would you feel about cutting it now and doing another stream later in the month? I have some time available at various points. Like, I can move the 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim stream on the 9th to a later day, because that patron doesn't care what day it is. Sounds good. Okay, cool. In that case, I'm going to end here. I'm going to save. Thank you. 7 and... days do I have available? I will give you the list over Discord. Yes, okay. So that's going to be it for today. I'll read my schedule and get off. Before I do, I would like to plug my Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/Loreweaver streams. You can also find the link in the description of the YouTube video or with the ! Patreon command in Twitch chat. I make my living off of Patreon. It's my sole source of income. And I make enough to pay my rent and my bills, about $700 to $800 a month, but I'm really just scraping by beyond that. And that's what I make for working full-time on this. And I'd really like to have some more stability, some savings for medical emergencies, for if I need to replace stuff, to commission stuff for work, to even just to have a little bit to spend. And like I said, I haven't had that for a very long time. So I would be grateful if you would go to my Patreon and pledge $1 a month or $1 per stream or anything in between. Pledge a bunch per stream if you really want to change my life. I also have a slot open right now where you can pick a game for me to play once a month. So grab that before it goes away. Excuse me. I'm grateful to everybody who pledges, because you're the reason I have this strange, silly job for that I love so much. Excuse me. Oh, burping all over the place today. You're the reason I have this strange, silly job that I love so much. If it weren't for you guys, I would still be a telemarketer or a burger flipper or some other equally horrific, soul-sucking job. So, thank you. As for the schedule, tomorrow we're finishing Stormblood in Final Fantasy XIV. Sunday we'll be playing Crosscode for a patron. Monday will be The Legend of Heroes Trails in the Sky 2nd chapter for a patron. Tuesday will be the Somnium Files for a patron. Wednesday will be The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask for a patron. Thursday I'll be playing 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim for a patron, unless Shai picks that date to replace it. And next Friday I'll be playing Yakuza 0 for a patron. So that'll be it for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. And I will see you next time.